I'm going to quote Leigh Wood here. He is singing Ben Davison's praises, and he thinks that Anthony Joshua is going to look fantastic against Otto Wallin. Now, he would say that because they're stablemates now. Maybe he really believes in Ben Davison to that extent, but this is what Leigh Wood had to say. He said, the approach he's got with Ben, he's talking about AJ, he's like a sponge. He's absorbing all the information. A lot of people look at it and think he's training with Ben. Is he mad? But like I've said, Ben is way ahead. I've said this many times and people can quote me because I know in 10 years' time, they'll be like, Leigh Wood told us. I didn't have to tell you. Look at my fights I've had. I've been the underdog time and time again, but I'm getting these results. Is it because I'm superhuman or is it because I've got a mint team? Do the maths. And let me just interject here. For those of you who are maybe not from the UK, mint is a word that is normally used in Northern England, right? This is English slang. Mint means very good. Is it because I'm superhuman or is it because I've got a mint team? Do the maths. I can see a lot of similarities between AJ and myself in the way he's learning. He's always asking questions and wants to know how it works. Sometimes you're trying to learn something and it doesn't click straight away. Then it's a good feeling when you get it. He's on the right path and I can't wait for his fight in December. I think you'll see AJ be more clear and decisive with what he's doing in there because I feel like he'll know what he needs to do. Whereas in previous fights, he seemed a bit apprehensive. It's like he's thinking it don't feel right or half guessing and not confident in what he's doing, but just doing it anyway. I know for this fight, he'll be clear and decisive, knowing what he needs to do and going out and doing it. A lot of people will say AJ looked more like his old self, and that will be because of these things he's doing with Ben Davison. Without a shadow of a doubt, it's an AJ knockout against Wallin. All right, those are the words of Leigh Wood. Now, here's the thing. What Leigh Wood said there could turn out to be the case. The question is, would Anthony Joshua, let's say AJ goes out there, does a job on Otto Wallin, would that have happened anyway if he'd stayed with Derek James? Because typically when a fighter switches trainers, they experience some teething problems. Maybe the first couple fights, they're not quite gelling, so on and so forth. But then maybe the third, fourth fight, it clicks and they get it. Just like Leigh Wood talked about there. He said, sometimes you're trying to learn something and it doesn't click straight away. And then it's a good feeling when you get it. Yeah, sometimes it takes a couple fights for certain things that trainers are teaching you to click. And when they do click, now you feel good. Now you feel comfortable doing these things. You see? So we don't know whether, if Anthony Joshua goes out there, destroys Otto Wallin, that would have happened with Derek James or not. But I'm sure that boxing fans will say he needs to leave Derek James and be with Ben Davison. Boxing fans are reactionary like that. They don't see the big picture all the time. They'll just see what's right there in front of them and not think of the context within which it happened. Now, Ben Davison could be the right guy for Anthony Joshua, at least for this fight. And maybe for most fights other than the Tyson Fury fight. He could be the right guy. Maybe he can be or would be better than Derek James. I don't know. I'm just talking about the possibility that, again, if he performs well in this fight, it might not really be a situation where Ben Davison is much better for him than Derek James. It might just be that AJ, needed those first couple fights to get accustomed to certain things because we don't know whether Anthony Joshua is unlearning what Derek James taught him. Ben Davison is there training him for this fight. It doesn't necessarily mean that there isn't some input from Derek James or Anthony Joshua hasn't learned certain techniques from James that he wants to carry forward. You see what I'm saying? So I do want to just make people think about that before they jump to conclusions. So let's see what happens in the Otto Wallin fight if Anthony Joshua looks better than ever, whether he's got his mojo back, his confidence back. And as I said previously, the thing about Ben Davison, and this would go towards the argument that maybe Ben Davison is a better trainer for him than Derek James, is the fact that Ben Davison is a very analytical person and he expresses himself very well. If ever you have heard Ben Davison break down boxing, break down fights, he's extremely meticulous, he's very technical, and he can explain things down to the fine detail of the mechanics of boxing. Anthony Joshua, I think, is the kind of person, the kind of personality who'll be very receptive to that. He's a guy who always asks questions. He isn't very intuitive. He needs things explaining to him down to the fine detail. Whereas more intuitive fighters, they don't need that. They can fill in the gaps by themselves. You just give them a general idea, a general feel, a general gist of what they need to do, and they understand what kind of technique, where the head position and the foot position and the hand placement needs to be. They don't need every single detail explaining to them. But with Anthony Joshua, he's like a computer. There's a lack of intuition there. Every single line of code needs to be input before he'll respond in the correct way. And Ben Davison is that kind of guy who has endless lines of code that he can input into this fighter. Whereas Derek James comes across like a guy who maybe isn't quite as precise as Ben Davison in the way he communicates. So anyway, I'll leave it there. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below about Leigh Wood gushing about Ben Davison. He thinks that Anthony Joshua is going to do a job on Otto Wallin. And then maybe, who knows, he'll be working as Anthony Joshua's, Ben Davison will therefore be working as Anthony Joshua's full-time coach. And Derek James will get brushed to the side. We'll see.